And this is exactly why you don't sell Bitcoin. Hold on for dear life because long term, the price will continue to go up and to the right. Check out the clip.
I didn't know what Bitcoin was. The Winklevoss twins were like staying a door down from me. I had bought Bitcoin. It was 11,000. They heard I bought it. They're like, let us explain it to you. And they explained Bitcoin. It was cockamamie. What they explained to me was Elon Musk was going to fly to outer space and mine Bitcoin from the sky or gold from the sky. It was going to rain plentiful. And I'm like, are you guys serious? And like, yeah. The second they left, I was like, sell. I don't know what they just said, but I want no part of it. Within 2 days, 3 days, a week is when Bitcoin went on the run. It went from like 11 to 20 to 30 to 40 to 50.
Yeah, you got killed.
And I'm just sitting there like these.
And with that, what's happening, Crypto Crew? Today we're going to be looking at the Bitcoin dominance, so we're getting straight into the charts. The current time this recording, Bitcoin is coming in right above 49%. So we're looking on the weekly. We're going to look on the weekly, the 2-week, and the monthly. We're going to base it off of history, so we're going to look back into the charts to see what we could anticipate with the Bitcoin dominance. Now, one thing to note, we're going to give you some hints. There's a couple moving averages that you should be looking at and paying attention to, the 200 and the 20. So throughout this video, the 20 moving average is the orange line and the 200 moving average is the blue line. So once again, taking a look at this and zooming into the price action, we did see that the Bitcoin dominance fell off a cliff back in 2021. This was a massive alt season, and we sort of based out and established this support around the 39 to 40% level. We respected it once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times before we started to stair step our way up. So one thing to note, you want to look at when these moving averages have a lot of space between them. Looking at the chart here, looking back in the charts, we see that right here was the area, let's just take a measured move, where we had the most space in the moving averages. So that was around May of 18. Because how these moving averages work, they just oscillate. They come apart and come back together, come apart, and then come back together. And you see that the 20 moving average can sort of be looked at as a support or resistance level. When it falls down, you fall down, you come up, retest it, come up, and we broke above it. So this probably faked a lot of people out right here on the weekly. But guess what happened? We didn't sustain. This was a failed move. And you have to look at the candlesticks too. You can look at the candle bodies to see, as you see this massive red candle here, none of this got back above that red candle. It got about maybe 2/3 up the way and was running out of steam. And then guess what happened? We fell down. But then what happened here? We came back up. Look at this massive red candle. We came up about 50% of that red candle, but then started to stair step our way up because we didn't put in a lower low then. And then we sort of flipped this from resistance to support. As you see, we stair stepped our way up. We had this macro support line, this white line here, before ultimately hitting our head in the 200 moving average. Now this 200 moving average is a massive, massive resistance level. Whether you're below it, it'll act as resistance, or above it, it can act as support. But it's something to pay attention to, because this is a bullish cross right here, but that does not mean that we're going to see just continuation to the upside if it isn't a sustained move. Look at the RSI. The RSI was overbought as well, and then we put in a lower high, and the price action put in a lower high. So that could show you that this trend was slowly changing. Even though we ended up putting in a high right here, this was after the 2020 halving when Bitcoin was the first mover. That Bitcoin dominance had that last run up before alts went crazy. So then let's look here. Let's look moving forward. We based out, as I had mentioned, around that 39 to 40% level. And the same thing, you see the RSI bottomed out. Then we started to put a higher low in, a higher low in, and a higher low as we were just trading in this channel. But eventually, this channel started to stair step its way to the upside. Now look what happened. We're closer to that 200 moving average, because that 200 moving average is an accumulation of all the Bitcoin price action over the past 200 days on the weekly, averaged out. So that's what this line means. And you see we got back above that 20 moving average and respected it as support. We bounced off it, bounced off it. Now look where we're at right now. If we zoom into this price action, this is on the weekly. So you have to pay attention to multiple time frames. We fell through the 20, and came back up, had a retest, and then came back up like we were going to have a continuation, but it may have been a failed move. So the main thing to pay attention to, it's okay if we fall below this 20, because if you look back in this previous stair step, we fell below the 20 here, but continued up. We fell below the 20 here, but continued up. So this macro support line, this white line, acted as major support as well. So same thing here. If we zoom into this price action, we can see we have not fell below the 20 until right now, but this macro support line is still intact. So we could be seeing a continuation to the upside, but the level you want to pay attention to is this 200 moving average, because this 200 moving average is going to act as massive resistance. Now, if we blast through this and don't look past it, Bitcoin could have a lot more ways to go to the upside. Zooming out on the price action, if you look at this here, you see that we do have a macro channel that Bitcoin has been trading in. And it's really this channel right here. Bitcoin has been trading in roughly around the 39 to 73% range. As you see, make this a little smaller so we can see. Let's get rid of these here. We came up, hit our head here, came down to the bottom of this channel, stair stepped our way back up, came back to the bottom. And now, are we going to stair step our way all the way back up to this 70 range? Could that be what's in the cards? So remember, I was telling you, you have to pay attention to when there's a lot of space between these moving averages, because here they oscillate. They want to get far apart, come back together. Get far apart, come back together. Now, we really haven't had a continuation of a bullish cross. So is that what could be in the cards? Are we going to see the 20 cross over the 200 and have a continuation to the upside? Because the same way this 20 moves, which moves a lot faster than the 200 moves the same way. Like, it just moves slower. So it's coming down, the 200 will eventually flatten out, and then maybe come back up a little bit, then come back down. But it's just going to take a lot longer than this 20 moving average. So this is on the weekly. Look on the 2-week. We can sort of see similar price action. We can see that, looking at the RSI, we still have this macro channel that we've been showing you. Now the question is Bitcoin going to hit its head on this 200, which is acted as resistance right here on a retest up right here? It had a wick up, and it wicked up to the top of this box, but didn't hold. The candles came right back down. So this downwards resistance acted as a resistance level 2. So right here in this level, will Bitcoin run up to this 58% level? Also, this 200 moving average is moving this way, as you see. So are we going to see a continuation? Are we going to come back to the upside of this? Now, looking at the RSI, what do we see? We can see the RSI bottomed out here and came back up and hit its head and put a high in, but it hit its head twice before ultimately peaking, and then came back down, hit its head again here. So this is a major level of resistance. We can't hold above it too long. Look what happened. It stair-stepped its way back up and hit its head. So is it going to do, the question is, back in 2019, which about 4 years ago, if you look 4 years exactly, it'd be this level right here. So that's time. But if you look at this price structure and the halving, these orange lines are the halvings. This is something you have to pay attention to, because this is very important. The orange lines are the halving. So if we get our date range to see how many days we're away from the halving, as far as the price action goes, we're about 210 days away from the halving. So where was this price action 210 days away from the halving before? It was already at macro resistance up here. So this is something you have to pay attention to, because these cycles are going to rhyme but not exactly repeat. So just because Bitcoin was extremely overbought here doesn't mean that we're just going to come back down. Now, doesn't mean that we're not either. So we have to be patient, wait and see. So looking at the RSI from 210 days, it's in similar regions. But that doesn't really mean everything, because RSIs can get overbought and continue to stay overbought, and keep trading up here. You have to sort of wait and see what happens in the market because there's a lot of back end macro effect, considerations that could, affect how Bitcoin moves. So one thing we need to just pay attention to is this upwards resistance line, this white line, and this downwards resistance. So this is something, because right now it's still intact. Even with this pullback, it looks like we hit our head, but Bitcoin could come up and hit its head again. It could just be cooling off. It could just sort of trade sideways a little bit and then come back up and put in a higher high. Maybe like that. It could come up a little bit sooner and put in a higher high while this Bitcoin dominance continues to go up to maybe the 58 to 60 level or ultimately up to this 70 level. So you have to wait and see because you see the RSI is still putting in, it put in a low, it put in a high, it put in a higher low, a higher high. This could come down and ultimately come down to here, this 55 level, while it just sort of trades sideways before ultimately coming up and putting a higher high in, and the trend will still be intact. We're still putting in higher highs and higher lows. Until we break this recent high here, then we might want to take a look at the trend is your friend until the end. Zooming into the price action once again, you see that it's still intact. We're still staying above this macro support. So looking at the monthly, one thing to take a look, it's all the same. It's all rinse, repeat, zoom out so you can see. And you see that the monthly tells a little bit of a different story because you can take this trend line and you can see that the monthly every time comes up and hits its head on this upwards white line. Let's get rid of all these. And one thing to note, the monthly has not been in overbought territory in the RSI up over this 70 level. So the monthlies came up, this is way back in 2015, hit its head again on this in 2019, and then had a retest, a failed retest, which touched the top of this resistance level around the 70 level, came down. This could have reset the RSI, and now we're just stair-stepping our way to the upside. So are we going to have that continuation to the top of this channel and also the top to touch this again? Could this happen by the end of 2024, by the next halving? That's a probability. That's a possibility. It's not out the realm of what can happen because Bitcoin could do something like this. And then you could be looking at the macro resistance levels in the price action. Could Bitcoin then come down and cool off, maybe hit its head at the 70 level again, or maybe that 57 to 60 level before coming back down and trading back into this channel? This would be an alt season. This is when you want to diversify a little bit of your portfolio into alts. And look at here. Bitcoin looks like it's forming this symmetrical triangle. Now, whether this breaks to the downside or upside is a different conversation. But my point is this could have a wick up. It could keep trading in this symmetrical triangle. And the apex region is way out here back in January of 2031. So we're not going to see a breakout probably to this apex area right here. And that is a little bit, it's going to get squeezed here and probably either break to the upside, have a retest, blast off, or it could break to the downside and retest and break down. So either way you cut the cloth, Bitcoin is still in this macro symmetrical triangle. You have to look at these patterns, and it could just come up and hit its head before ultimately having that altcoin rally. So if you look here, this was a massive altcoin rally. You look here, this was a massive altcoin rally. So this was a bull market, bear market, bull market. Right now we're still in a bear market, and this could be the next bull market right here. And that just coincidentally lines up perfectly with the 4-year cycle and Bitcoin's halving of 2024. So we could just be patient. It might not be the best time to get out of Bitcoin into alts. You want to see the market trends, you want to see what the market gives you, and patience is key. Now, if we do have a breakdown of the Bitcoin price action, and we do see this macro support, this upwards support, Bitcoin break this and come to the downside, then you might want to rethink this strategy. Because every single time, Bitcoin's respected this until it topped out right before the halving. If it does the same thing, it'll top out right before the halving again, these orange lines. Keep that in mind. It might come back up and wick above it like it's going to have a fake breakout and then come back down to this level all through 2024, second half of 2024 and 2025. So with that, what's your take on this? Are you all in Bitcoins or all in alts? Do you understand how to denominate your overall portfolio in Bitcoin value? Not US dollars, but Bitcoin value. If you have zero point 0.1 Bitcoin and you make a trade into a different altcoin, if you ever go back into Bitcoin, you want more Bitcoin than what you started with. You don't want to turn zero point 0.1 into 0.05. Same thing if you have 1, 10, 100 Bitcoin, you're making these trades and plays, you want to be able to understand these charts. It could just be oscillating in this macro channel right here, from the low being around 40% and the highs being around 70%. So sell Bitcoin, buy at the bottom, sell at the top. Buy at the bottom, sell at the top. So it's that simple, but you have to be patient and see what the market gives you. If you guys enjoy this content, go ahead and smash that like button. I'm Sean with the Bitcoin Bros. We appreciate all your support. With that, I'm out.